China put on more rare earth export controls last night, and Argentina is rich in rare earths and rich in uranium, and I think they are committed to U.S. private companies coming in and being good partners with them.
China overnight defending new export controls of rare earth minerals as a, quote, legitimate measure. This as the White House plans to hit an additional 100% tariff on Beijing starting November 1st. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer joins me now. Ambassador, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So huge developments on Friday. President Trump canceling his plans to meet with Xi Jinping at the end of the month, also announcing these 100% tariffs on top of the existing 30% set to begin November 1st. Countries all over the world are going to be impacted by this. The Ministry of Commerce posted overnight China's export controls are not export bans. Licenses will be granted for eligible applications. Before the measures were announced, China had already notified relevant countries and regions through bilateral export control dialogue mechanisms. I assume the U.S. was not notified since the president said this came as a surprise. But how do you read this message? Does this look like a walk back to you guys?
Well, clearly, the Chinese have realized that they have wildly overstepped the bounds of what's acceptable. I can tell you that we were not notified, and quickly, as soon as we found out from public sources, we reached out to the Chinese to have a phone call, and they deferred. However, in the past couple of days, I think it's become very clear to everybody that this power grab by the Chinese won't be tolerated. So I think some of this messaging has signaled that they understand that there's a serious issue here.
Do you see this meeting happening between Trump and Xi at the end of the month?
Well, it could. The president's going to be over there. Presumably, President Xi will be there. If there's an interest in talking, the president famously is always willing to talk. We've already had outreach at the staff level on the Chinese side. So we will see. What I will say is, we cannot allow this new program to assert control over exports of technology in the United States and around the world. That's something that can't stand.
And that's a point we should get to, because rare earths are critical for a lot of things, everything from semiconductor chips to electric vehicles. There's been a lot of focus on the tariff threat and how that would affect regular people. But, how could China's crackdown on these rare earths have big consequences? And what is the plan? Does Argentina end up playing a role?
Well, listen, we use the term rare earths. They're actually not that rare. We have them in the U.S., Australia, Argentina, as was noted. The challenge is that China has controlled all the processing, almost 90% of the processing. They've amassed a monopoly, and they've undercut other countries that try to produce it. So that's why we're in this particular situation. So certainly other countries can play a part in this. And by the way, the rare earths and these critical materials, they certainly go into household objects, cars, smartphones we talk to each other on. But there are also other applications, satellites and defense equipment. So this is a serious issue.
The rare earths are one point of leverage that we know China was going to hold on to ahead of these trade negotiations. The other point of leverage is these soybean farmers. China's been holding U.S. soybean farmers hostage for about a year. Last year, the U.S. exported $12.6 billion in soybeans to China. This year, it's zero. And China represents 49% of the market for soybeans. The administration's been planning a bailout for these farmers. It was stalled by the shutdown. But can you tell us what that will ultimately look like?
Sure, that will look like a bridge. There will be some pots of money that will be deployed for a bridge for our farmers. We know our farmers don't want a handout. They want to trade. So one thing that my office is doing and the president is doing is we're also opening markets overseas. Cambodia has lowered its tariffs on soybeans already. Vietnam has done the same. A number of countries are doing purchase orders, and not just with soybeans, other row crops like corn, et cetera. So and we're looking at domestic uses of soybeans as well in fuels, et cetera. So there are a multi-pronged approach to solving that issue.
The Treasury Secretary said we might be seeing something like direct subsidies through the Farm Credit Bureau. Is that coming together?
That's possible. I know he's looking into it, and they're looking at interest rates, which really skyrocketed for farmers under President Biden. A lot of input costs skyrocketed. We have a bumper crop this year. So all of this has come together in a little bit of a perfect storm. And so that's why we're looking not only at the Farm Credit Bureau, but other tools as well.
And finally, how about the market reaction to all of this? The Wall Street Journal said that Friday's slide was really not massive by historical standards, but, quote, its breadth and its focus on red-hot tech shares and smaller banks rattled some analysts and portfolio managers who had come to believe that the 2025 market advance had grown immune to trade war tensions. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, I think that it's common when the Chinese take a broad action like this, purporting to control the world's technology supply chains and have a veto on anything we want to send from America to Mexico or Europe to Australia. I think that is normal reaction for the markets to have some concern. That being said, these measures aren't in place yet. The tariffs aren't in place yet. It's scheduled for November 1st. So I think we'll see the markets calm this coming week as they see things settle out, hopefully. And
have you heard any response from China about the 100% tariffs that the president threatened to take effect November 1st? Or are they planning any additional tariffs on their end?
Well, their announcement today, they didn't announce anything specific. Again, I think that they've realized they've overstepped. And remember, we've had a deal in place with China since May where we said we'll keep our broad tariffs in check if you keep sending us rare earth magnets. We've kept our broad tariffs in check, and they've decided to expand their controls on rare earths. So clearly there's a violation of our agreement there, so it makes sense that the president would take an enforcement action or propose an enforcement action. So there's certainly room for off-ramps here for China, and the president continues to have a great relationship with President Xi. We talk to our counterparts, but we need to make sure that we can find a way back to the stable situation we were in a week ago.
All right. We will continue to watch it. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
We're here with our dear friend Peter Schweitzer. He really is a great investigative reporter. He's president of the Government Accountability Institute, a fantastic group, GAI. You write great books. You write great pieces over at Breitbart. Just fantastic, Peter. I wanted to get into this. Mondami, you have put out new information, you and your group, about who he is, what he's doing, who is funding him. And before people finish voting in New York and people around the country, you need to know exactly who this man is, his family, who's funding him, what he's all about. It is pure evil. Peter Schweitzer, go.
Yeah, Mark, what people have to understand is that this election for mayor in New York is really a dark echo of the 9/11 terrorist attack. And you wonder, what do I mean by that? Well, look at the family itself, the Mamdani family itself. They are joined at the hip with the royal family of Qatar, the Al Thani family. They have sent them millions of dollars. They have funded their projects. So why does this family matter? It matters because back in 1996, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks, was granted sanctuary by this very royal family. He was given a no-show job at the Ministry of Water in Qatar, and it was there that he started planning the 9/11 attacks. The FBI was looking for him, Mark, because he had been involved in the 1993 World Trade Center attack, as well as other terrorist attacks. So the FBI went to the royal family and said, we want this man for his involvement in terrorism. What did the family do? They hid him and helped him to escape. They tipped him off. And I would encourage a lot of people to go back and look at the statements that Louis Freeh made back in the day, saying, had they gotten Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, that would have prevented future terrorist attacks like 9/11. So this is the royal family of Qatar. Why do we care about them in the context of Mamdani? Well, first of all, there's the financial connection that we talked about. Millions of dollars bankrolling the Mamdani family. Second of all, this same family is now on social media around the world. And what are they doing, Mark? They're pushing Mamdani's campaign. They're pushing his policy positions. They're pushing his poll numbers. They're encouraging people to vote for him, to financially support him. So they're cheerleading for him. And what did Mamdani do in September, just a few weeks ago? He was on Qatari TV. Now, what American politician running to be a mayor of a city goes on Qatari TV? Mamdani goes on Qatari TV, and what does he do? He talks about the jihad, the verbal jihad, as it were. He talks about the fact that the United States is underwriting genocide in Israel. This is the same family, the Mamdamis, by the way, who say that Darfur, where 400,000 Christians were slaughtered by Islamists, that was not jihad. This is the same family that says that terrorism is a Western invention. It's not an Islamist invention. So you have this bizarre situation where a political candidate in New York speaks the language of jihad, is financially connected to the family that helped the 9/11 plotters get away so they could bring down the Twin Towers. And it would be a tragedy if the Qataris would see occupants of City Hall when they were the same people that were involved in what happened in 9/11 and bringing down the Twin Towers.